Now bring him in, our guy Sean McGuire. We're talking about some Iowa State prospects, Jaylin Noel, Jayden Higgins. Well, what does Sean McGuire do? Reached out to Iowa State wide receiver coach Noah Pualey. Caught up with him. S-Mac, first off, how we doing, my man? Good to see you, bro.
It's good to see you guys again, George. How you doing? How you doing, Travis?
Good, man. Good to see you, Esmeezy.
Miss you, Sean. Those blue eyes that match your blue half zip up, man. I love it. How were the Masters for you? Were you pulling for Rory?
I was pulling for Rory. I was stoked for him. I mean, he made it quite a challenge on all of us, but I think he's been through enough, and I didn't want to see him go through it anymore. So good for him.
If after choking it away, if he didn't close it out that Sunday, it would have never happened. Yeah. So again, he avoided nightmares. Good for him.
Unchoke.
Yep. Facts.
The whole thing.
Hey, what we need the Patriots to not choke is with their first and second round picks, especially.
Facts.
So we talk about those because the two guys that make sense around pick 38, we can see what the Pats do. But I would say with their second pick of the draft are the wide receivers at Iowa State. So you spoke to the Cyclones wide receivers coach, Jaylin Noel, 5'10", 195, Jayden Higgins, 6'4", 215. A lot of experience. Both guys are good. Both guys are NFL receivers. Yep. When you spoke to the wide receivers coach for the Cyclones, start with either or. What jumped out to you? What did you like that you heard from him? What did you learn?
Yeah, so Noah Pualey is his name. He's been the wide receivers coach at Iowa State for 3 years. He was previously at North Dakota State, where Christian Watson. Who was the Watson? That's right. The Packers wide out. So he was there for a little bit too. So certainly has some experience with the good star pro receivers. I think what you just said about they're both good. I think that is like the main thing. I think you got to say that right from the jump, because certainly, to no surprise, their wide receivers coach doesn't think you can go wrong. I don't really disagree with it. I think both players are really good. If you can get one at 38, that's great. So when it came down to and it was a little funny, right? I mean, I'm asking him to, which skill set would you rather, which receiver would you rather? And to no surprise, I mean, he's not going to answer that question. He's not going to pick one guy over his other guy. But he did give a breakdown when it came to who held the edge in what category. We talked about their physicality. We talked about their versatility, their route running, run blocking, separation, all those things, and all those things that you see on the screen right now. And it really came down to just, you kind of got to pick, right? I mean, Jaylin Noel, he's the better inside option. Jayden Higgins, he's the better outside option. And a lot of, I think that opinion that Pauley shared is really echoed by a lot of the experts and draft analysts that you hear around the league. It's just, that's how they're viewed. Higgins is, like you said, 6'4", 214 pounds. He's got great size, but he's also speedy for his size, 4.47 40. And then you get to Jaylin Noel, and he's a little bit undersized. He's 5'10" and 194 pounds, but he's explosive. 4.39 40. His 10-yard splits were off the charts, and a lot of I think he had the best jumps of anyone at the combine as well. So just really explosive. And I think those were kind of the things, it did come down to you can't go wrong in it, I think is kind of what Pauley was trying to say.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all, rainbows and puppies. And I get it. You're talking to a coach. He's not going to give you the goods. No doubt. I'm talking to you. Who's a better fit? Because I'm going to be honest. It's like I don't even know who George is anymore. This guy was selling me on Higgins, it feels like, for every year of my life. Now we get here, and he flipped on me. I can't for the life of me. I think Higgins with the big body in the red zone for Drake May, I mean, that goes together like peanut butter and jelly, baby. I think he's the best fit personally. What do you think? I get the coach. You put him on the spot. He's not going to answer. He loves them like his kids. But you can give me an answer. Which one of these two guys is a better fit in your mind, Esmeezy?
Yeah, I agree with you, Travis. I think it's got to be Jayden Higgins. I think the versatility when it comes down to it. And when I actually asked Pauley that about, the versatility, he did talk about Noel's ability to play special teams and everything. But when I think specific versatility when it comes to just wide receivers, I do think that Higgins kind of has that advantage. I mean, he can play outside given his size, but he lined up he played outside on 70% of his snaps last season, but he also saw a career high in snaps in the slot, and he made the most of it. I mean, he was really good in that spot. Pauley was talking about how, when he went against linebackers and safeties, I mean, he shredded them. And it was also, I saw a stat from ESPN, and it was, just a specific, when it came to Higgins running slants, he had the second most catches and touchdowns on slant routes in the last 2 years. And a lot of that, I mentioned that to Pualey as well. And he almost like painted like a picture of like a cat and mouse game. Like, you got a guy that's 6'4", 214 pounds over there. You're thinking he's going to run down the sideline and he's going to do that. Well, he saw that and he kind of manipulated the leverage when it came to it. And, he would go inside and he was really crafty when it came to that. So I would agree with you. I mean, to answer your question, I think if I'm a Patriots, like from a Patriots perspective, I do think that he makes more sense. Obviously, we'll talk about, and it's kind of obvious, they have so many guys that are inside guys at this point. They really don't have, an outside threat. Exactly. So I think that is a big part of why I think that Higgins makes sense. But I think I see George shaking his head here. I think that he's going to probably say, okay, that's what I meant. I think he's going to say Noel, and I don't completely I understand that thought. I do think that that Higgins would make the most sense.
Either one helps, no doubt. Go ahead, George.
Exactly, and that's the fact that they're both good players, they're both NFL receivers, and Noel is so explosive, so elite at the line of scrimmage. Now, can get jammed up, but you line him up in the slot and off the literal line of scrimmage.
Right.
Gives him room to set up receivers. He's really good at not just creating separation, but finding ways to create space around defensive backs. He's good in contested catches. He has claws for hands. The punt returning does jump out to me. He averaged almost 9 yards per punt return at Iowa State, and that's a big deal. Every punt and kick return for an NFL team is seen as a possession in a way, and a play where get 10 yards, or can you at least get us around that range, like what you would take on 1st and 10. You would take an 8-yard gain on 1st and 10 every single time. That's what you want. You have the ball, advance it, at least give the offense a new set of downs to work with. He's good at catching the ball outside of his frame, has really good hands. He's gotten better year by year and has 30-plus starts. Smooth mover, claw for hands, explosive athlete. And as a slot, that's what he is in the NFL. He could do great. And it's at 5'10". I just see a Tyler Lockett. It's a consistent 75, 80 catches, 1,000 yards, 5 to 8 touchdowns.
I don't hate it.
With Jayden Higgins, he's 6'4", 215. I profile him more inside. He doesn't have that top-end speed, like a vertical threat that a defense will have to deal with. But he's a long strider, eats up space, puts a pressure on cornerbacks, is big, good in contested catches, good route runner, and his short area quickness, that's what helps him out when it comes to slants and moving the chains. He'd be great in the red zone. He'd be great on 3rd down. I just think the Patriots can't go wrong with either one. I think Higgins, and maybe it's why I'm banging the Jaylen Noel drum more, I don't think Higgins will be there at 38. I think Noel will be. But that's because it's the height, weight, speed that Jayden Higgins has, and he's still ascending. He's still growing. Multi-year contributor. Probably Pualey was with him all 3 seasons that they were. 41 starts for Jayden Higgins, 33 for Noel. So maybe he got Higgins his last 3 seasons there. But he has that height, weight, speed that NFL teams covet, and that's why it's tough to see him at 38. That's maybe why I've been banging the Jaylen Noel drum, where if he's taken at 38, you got to love it.
Right.
But a lot can change too. We got to see what happens with the Pats do in the 1st round. But that's cool insight. Did he have anything of, if you talk to him, okay, what makes them successful at the NFL level, talking Noel or Higgins?
Yeah, and I kind of did. We're talking about 2 guys. Higgins was a 2-star high school recruit. He started his college career playing for an FCS school at Eastern Kentucky. And Noel, not drastically different. 3-star recruit. He was ranked like the 125th receiver in the class.
Wow. So
you're talking 2 guys that were really not great prospects. And now you're talking, maybe potential day 1 picks, likely day 2 picks. So I did ask him about, that development and everything. And he just said watching them kind of behind the scenes when it comes to, perfecting their craft behind the scenes. He told me a story about how Jayden Higgins would wait for one of his teammates. His teammates had night class that went to like 8:45, and Jayden Higgins would wait at the facility until that teammate got out and, throw balls with him, run routes with him, do the jug machine with him, that whole thing. And he just said he kind of did give some, behind the scenes look into it. And then Noel, the same thing. He called him an alpha. So I think that kind of sticks out, right? And he just talked about, what a leader he was. Noel was a 2-year captain at Iowa State. He talked about, the leadership and just And really, when it came down to like the leadership, it was both on field. He was a player that was making a play when needed, but also he was able to kind of be the vocal leader, and just talk about how good of a culture fit he would be, wherever he's going to be, wherever he's going to go. So I thought a lot of that stuff was insightful as well.
S. Mizzle, you've had the opportunity now to talk to coaches for both of the cats I want to ask you, Jaylin Noel and Luther Burden. Both guys, undersized, playmakers, though. I mean, from what you surmise, what you've gathered over being the hardworking journalist that you are, which one of those guys, if you were going to go smaller in stature, but both playmakers, no doubt, both can help you on special teams, they could do everything.
Yeah.
I mean, investigative reporting here out of those two, because I'm a Burden guy, but out of those two, who's a better fit for the Patriots, in your opinion?
So I've actually been a little bit surprised since I published that story, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago at this point. You've kind of see Luther Burden connected, linked to the Patriots a little bit more. I feel like for whatever reason, he's kind of sliding down the draft board. And, maybe that's just a product of this never ending pre-draft process that, that kind of happens. But to answer your question, I would agree with you. I think Luther Burden would be a better fit, a better prospect. Okay. He is to me, he's so explosive and he is versatile as well. And so it was good talking with that coach, Eli Drinkwitz at the time, and, just hearing a lot of the different insights that he had. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to think about because, at one point 3 weeks ago, we were talking about, how possibly could the Patriots land Luther Burden, right?
Right.
And now it might just be he slips to them at 38. And I think that, again, it's just kind of part of the process that never ends at this point. We're going on, week 30 of 32 or whatever. So,
right.
Look, man, I love the draft. I love all the talk leading up. I can't wait for it to finally be here, though. Because it is. When you talk about all these guys, it's like, all right, who are the ones that result? We've seen the stocks go up and down.
Yep.
No, Burden, 100%. I mean, I would go, I'll talk out loud. To me, it's Travis Hunter's wide receiver 1.
Yes.
Ted McMillan 2.
Yes.
Matthew Golden 3.
Yes.
I would go Burden 4 just because what he does after the catch. Then there's Emeka Egbuka after that point.
I would agree.
But it's because Luther Burden, just his yak, how good he is as a ball carrier. And there's the Deebo Samuel comps. It's Kadarius Toney on the field, just how versatile he is and how he can be used.
Yes.
And again, it's Josh McDaniels calling the plays where he's going to take a Luther Burden and know how to put the ball in his hands and to set him up for success. And the volatility of his stock, I can see Burden if he falls to the Broncos. I can't imagine Sean Payton passing up on him.
God, he would be dangerous there.
Same thing if he falls to the Chargers. A lot of people are saying they go defensive. I just can't imagine they pass up on him when they need a weapon.
Yeah,
that's a guy. Yeah. And then it's even, man, think Commanders. Think with the
maybe
Bills.
You move up, George. Maybe you have to move up a little to get him if they covet him in that way.
Yeah, and that would be the thing of it's so up and down. But again, also, I haven't spoken about Burden a ton on the show, of just I see the range and who makes sense of who the Patriots would be in a position to draft.
Yeah.
They'd be in a position to draft the guys at Iowa State, Jack Besh, Xavier Restrepo. Go, Sean.
No, I was going to say the same thing. And when you say about, who's in their wheelhouse when it comes to 38, I think it's definitely more likely that they're deciding between the Iowa State kids than they are Luther Burden.
It's a Burden can fall and a Emeka Egbuka. It's the Iowa State guys. Jack Besh, Elika Yomenor out of Stanford.
Yeah.
A little more unpolished, really good down the field. The one thing I give a Jayden Higgins over an Elika Yomenor is I think Higgins climbing the ladder is a lot better receiver.
Yes.
Really reliable hands. And there is a fact, if you could line him up inside and he's a big slot, and you want primarily functioning there, you're getting a bigger, faster, stronger Jacoby Myers.
Yep.
That's still someone that can split out wide. If they like what they're getting from a Jalen Polk, then he's Jacoby Myers. And that's what they would take. And then with Jayden Higgins, it's a Drake London light. Not as physically dominant like a Ted McMillan's Drake London.
Right.
But a guy, it's not the top end speed, but the long strides, not crazy athletic, but can win with his physical traits. On top of it, he's a really good route runner. I like Jayden Higgins' footwork as well.
Some big receivers don't play to their size. He does. He maximizes his size.
If anything, he plays bigger, which I love. And that's what I like about Jaylin Noel, too. He plays a lot bigger than 5'10".
He does.
Plays a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Anything Pauley said, any story shared, you're like, man, I love knowing that now. We got some good ones from PJ Fleck about Ante Ursary. Anything that Pauley shared?
Yeah, no, I think the one the one I just mentioned about him staying after with that teammate, I think that was probably the best one that came out of it. Just to your point about you're just talking about like some comps and those sorts of things. He did give me a few comps. He said that when he was last few years, he's had Jayden Noel watch a lot of Amon-Ra St. Brown. He also heard a comp of, I believe it was Steve Smith, which I really like that. I mean, both crazy competitive physical guys, undersized, but kind of popped with their physicality. So I like that one as well. And then when it came to Jayden Higgins, like you just mentioned, it was, who was it for Jayden Higgins? Nico Collins, and then you also just mentioned Drake London. That was another one. He said that scouts, a lot of the scouts that came to see Jayden Higgins over the last few years, a lot of the comps were Drake London.
Okay.
I like that.
I love all these comps.
I like the Nico Collins comp.
Yeah.
Where Collins, again, same thing, was coming out of Michigan State, wasn't a first-round pick. Now he's a wide receiver 1, and he's paid as so.
Yes.
Same weight, same height. I want to see his measurables.
I don't even remember him in college much. It must have been uneventful.
It was very similar when I was looking it up, George, between him and Nico Collins.
And the way I like
the exact same size and everything.
Yeah, and the way it's also just like what they do in the 40 and such with the broad jump. And Nico Collins is explosive, and he would take that. I mean, and that's a guy. He's quick. He can move. Jayden Higgins can move. Yeah. That's not the burner, but that's fine. Scheme him open. They know how to get separation.
Football speed.
Good with the ball after the catch. Noel's a little better than Higgins. But again, here's the thing. What I like about both of them, they're going to get better.
Yes.
I trust the coaching the Patriots have. They're going to get better, just like Nico Collins was. So I may not love a Jayden Higgins after the catch right now.
Yeah.
I'm confident I'll love a Jayden Higgins after the catch down the road. Same thing with Jaylin Noel.
Yeah.
You know what I would love? Sean, you got time to stay on for the mailbag?
I do.
10 more minutes. Cool. All right, I'm going to keep you on. You know what I would love? Draft them both.
Go get them both.
And we'll get into that scenario.
Not me.
We'll get into that.
Just pick a guy. Do we not have enough wide receivers who are unproven, who ain't doing a damn thing? Now you want both?
Bro.
Just get the best one.
Hey, Trav, bottle it up 1 sec, and we'll get to that in just a sec with the mailbag. I love the energy, though.